What's going on? All you unstoppable restaurant professionals, welcome to Foodable Weekly. We're off-site here in Chicago. My name is Eric Cacciatore. I'll be hosting today's segment. We're talking about culture and trends in culture, and I'm joined with Michael Cheng, the Director of Food and Beverage for Florida International University, and Chris Koetke, the Vice President of Culinary Arts at Kendall College. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about culture, but first, I just want to get to know the two of you a little bit better. So I guess start with Michael. Just in a couple sentences, tell us a little bit more about you and what brought you here.
Well, I'm originally from Malaysia, and my background is restaurant management, and I teach hospitality management at Florida International University. My passion has always been in food, and education is how I ended up working in the university.
And Christopher?
I work both at Kendall College and also with a group of universities called Laureate International Universities. And in that role, I manage schools all over the world, culinary schools, 49 campuses worth, and in 12 countries. So that's what I do. And obviously, a chef of a few numbers of years.
Beautiful. So
and he's a superstar.
As educators, you guys are responsible for kind of showing the future, our future in this industry, how to conduct themselves, how to be, their culture, to give them that culture. So how are you doing that?
Well, you know, culture is a really interesting question, and it's something we talk a lot about, especially on the international sort of platform, because you can talk about individual cultures, country cultures, food cultures, but I think that when we talk about how we bring people into the culture of our business, it really is about a few things. Soft skills, number one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's everyone always thinks like culinary school is to like learn how to chop something. I mean, well, yeah, it is, okay, but there's all that other stuff. How do you work as a team? How do you work fast, sense of urgency, multitask, on and all the soft skills. And then I think the other things that are critical to the culture is business skills. You know, culinary school is really kind of a business school about food. And then it's nutrition and sustainability. Sustainability is a huge culture piece now. It used to be a topic, now it's a culture piece. Okay. So that's really where we focus our time.
Let's talk about actual culture today in the workforce, or like in these restaurants. It's come a long way in the past few years, and that's something that comes up a lot on my show, Restaurant Unstoppable. We talk a lot about how food has gotten really competitive, and it's really hard for us today to do food better than we're already doing it. So what's going to make you successful in this industry is how well your culture is, how well you take care of your employees, how well you tell your story through your brand, and creating something that means something, that people want to be a part of. So what's going on? What trends are you seeing in culture in that regard?
I think from my perspective, I'm seeing less and less, it's not really less and less strenuous, rigid, but really when you move into the casual dining environment, they're no longer wearing chef whites. You know, they're wearing aprons and baseball caps in the kitchens. And I think it's not because they don't respect the chef white jacket. It's really more the focus is on the food and the quality of the food and the experience that the customer gets from it. So, and Chris had mentioned it before, you know, it comes from the top. The owner or the manager or the chef of the kitchen, they set the tone for it, and then the rest of the kitchen follows through with it.
In terms of trends, you know, certainly the casualness of food is huge. I spend a lot of my time traveling around the world. I see that all over now.
The casualness of
gosh, yes. Well, what's happening is, and you said it well, which is it's not necessarily about, you know, the fine china and all that I grew up doing, right? It's really about sheer focus on food and having it being very accessible to people. And I think that's a great
When you say
thing.
It's accessible, what do you mean? Like approachable or
price standpoint?
Okay.
So prices are a little lower. I don't have to dress up. But I will tell you, I'd watch for this trend because I know it's going to come back. And that is, in every instance, in every market, when the pendulum swings way over here, something opens up over here.
Yep.
And I recently I ate in a great fine dining restaurant. I mean, like old school. And I walked out and I said, you know, all this casual stuff is awesome. But that experience is, there's a reason why.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so I think that, you know, watch this. I think that you're going to start to see some stuff percolate over here that it's not dead. People say fine dining is dead. I think it's just I think the focus has moved away.
Yeah.
But now there's opportunity.
It's going to have an opportunity. It's going to come back.
I think, also it's not just the back of the house, it's the industry, not industry, the consumers.
Yeah.
The millennial generation, they're just not used to seeing whites anymore.
Yeah.
They're used to seeing baseball caps and aprons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing you said, back of the house, front of the house is super important now.
Yeah.
I mean, those of us in the kitchen tend to believe that the sun rises and sets on the kitchen, and that's not true. I mean, and I think today, when I started in the restaurant business, there was such animosity between front and back of the house, and I think that's going away.
Yeah.
And you're seeing, people in chef whites or aprons going out to talk to the customer, and you see a lot of this going on, and that's perfect because at the end of the day, a restaurant it's a team.
Yep.
And if front and back of the house don't work together, disaster.
That's a slippery slope. The more casual we get, the longer it goes on, the more people forget whites exist.
I think a good word to use to kind of describe that casualness is people are much more authentic and genuine. I think that's kind of trending right now. People want you to be yourself because we're starting to recognize the importance of self-actualization and expressing who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if that plays into that trend that we're seeing in restaurants of a more casual approach where being able to express yourself. Any thoughts to that?
As I think back to when I started, that's 30 plus years ago, some of the top chefs of the world were expressing themselves within the sort of confines of the culture that they were in. But they certainly were not just following lockstep with what was done previously. I think today it seems like it's more of that because there's more ingredients available and more, with the internet, you can learn about everything everywhere all the time. And so we have this mixing going on. I look at the James Beard Awards every year and at the menus of the winners. And this year was so eclectic, all over the place. So yes, it's very individualized. But I'm not so, it just looks different because there's more stuff available today.
Okay.
And today, if we think about culinary school and how much we expect these students to know, when I started in the business, the body of knowledge was this big. We didn't know much about Chinese food. We didn't know there was a Malaysian cuisine. We didn't know there was an Ecuadorian cuisine. And so what we expect students to know now, the body of knowledge is so much bigger.
Yeah.
And then you put things like sustainability, where is it being sourced?
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, it's huge. So the pressure on us to teach all of this to our students, it's a different world now.
I think we have time for one more question, and I'm curious, often on the show, when I interview these successful restaurateurs, a big challenge for these people is communicating with the new workforce. They can't really handle emotions well. So what's your advice to the restaurateur out there who's dealing with this millennial wave of workers who aren't really communicating their emotions well or can't handle the stress of the job? What's your advice for that person?
I don't know if we will ever be able to really prepare them, the millennial generation, because they're very expressive and they're very on demand. They want it today, and the center of the universe is them at that point. So it takes maturity and experience.
I think when we look at sort of the generalized behaviors of the millennials, I think there's a temptation for people in our sort of generation to look at them like there's a problem there. And I say, stop. Why don't we listen for a little bit? Because I actually think the millennials can help all of us learn something also. It's it's not black and white, it's in the middle. I think about what the millennials think about sort of work-life balance. And I say, maybe they actually know something we should be learning. And maybe if we can help our employees achieve a better work-life balance, they're going to be better employees for longer periods of time.
Yeah.
So my advice is listen.
Yeah, and just to tag on to what you're saying, we have to remember at the end of the day, they're a product of the world we created for them. So maybe we should be wondering what we're doing wrong. So this has been great, guys. I think we're out of time, but thank you, Chris and Michael, for joining us.
My pleasure.
It's a
Thank
wrap.
you.